Hi, Adam. Thanks, Adam. Sounds good. Hi, Lauren. All right, I think we'll get started. As I said, we have a packed house tonight. It looks like there are 6 of you of our 15 in our cohort. A few people had other obligations, and I understand. So I'm recording this screencast or this session so that those in it, not in attendance, or yourselves that are in attendance are able to refer back to it. Just want to start off by saying I apologize. There's been a lot of emails I've been sending with things I've had to clean up. As I stated at the beginning of this course, I did not put this course together this time because it was a collaboration with a previous HR course. So the good news is I think everything's up and running okay for the remainder of the course, as well as I've eliminated a few assignments. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are 2, I think 3 assignments in the within this week and the end of the course that have been eliminated that were part of the old course. So a little less workload. All of you have survived and made it this far, and you're on the home stretch in the last couple weeks. I know the last weeks leading up to Thanksgiving were pretty heavy with assignments and work, and I appreciate everyone sticking in there. I tried to honor your holiday plans and your hectic life as teachers, and some of you already as administrators. So I very rarely late for dock for late work unless it's an extended period of time that's been late. So hopefully if there's anything else here on out when it comes to assignments not being in on time, just give me a heads up. I appreciate that. I do want to let you know that our last assignment, you have 3 big assignments due on the 22nd that you can even start working on now. Sorry. Those assignments will need to be in no later than Christmas, as I have to get grades to Stritch right after Christmas, and that gives me time to score them and provide feedback. And those are big percentages of your overall grade. So if you have questions about that individually, due dates and timelines, please feel free to email me. I have all of your work and your emails set on Canvas to go directly to my work address, so I'm able to respond quickly to your questions or inquiries. So with that, I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about what I'm seeing from coursework, give you all some general feedback, and then from there, any questions you have. So hopefully we can have a concise class tonight. But I do want to just start by having those that are in class right now either share in the text box or chime in on your microphone. What has been your biggest reflection or growth moment or aha moment so far now that you're more than 2/3 of the way through this course?
I'm going to chime in right away. I've got toddlers in the background, so pardon any of their noise. The biggest thing that I noticed has actually been recent is reflecting back on those previous observations. And I think I mentioned this in one of my things, just realizing that they weren't trying to be like putting us off by any means, that the good feedback is evidence. Um, And so many times we want that praise and we want to hear the opinions, but the true evaluation of it is not all opinionated. And that's been interesting seeing that through the other side, the other lens.
Yeah, you make a very good point, Adam. I'm glad you said the word reflection. I have that in my notes here to share that all of you have been very reflective in this process, and I think if you look back at your first couple assignments, not that anyone has all this extra time to do that, but maybe when the course closes up and looking at what instructional leadership is and what's the role of supervision and evaluation, and then where you're at now, and then where you'll be at the end of December. To Adam's point, your lens changes a little bit because you see this from a bigger picture rather than just your classroom perspective and seeing the role of evaluation and supervision from that standpoint. So, Adam, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to jump in? Or type a message in the text box. Yeah, Gloria, great point. Analyzing what is considered true feedback. A lot of you have talked about and shared in discussion boards how you've been given feedback in the past of praise or great job, and I think I've shared with a few of you in some of my feedback that when I was getting evaluated previously by when I was a teacher, a great job and a principal that I learned a lot from of what I don't want to be as an administrator. I finally said to him at one point, what am I doing a great job at? Because it's so easy to say, great job. And that builds that fixed mindset of, yeah, I'm doing great. And you don't grow from that. As well as using data to drive evaluations. Think of, Gloria, that your observational evidence that's biased and bias-free and not riddled with interpretations, that's data, that's evidence to help drive continued success. So thank you, Gloria. And then Matt, you said, I've learned a lot about the role that personal and professional growth plays in improving as an educator. I would agree that it's not only about your professional growth, which is easy through professional development and jumping in with book studies or going to conferences and those things, but also your role as personal growth and who you are and how you look at big systems and looking at it through the lens other than just your classroom or your isolated role. Jason, great point. Being vague versus being specific with evidence. I think I've shared with most of you in my feedback around your clinical observations around the point of, or when you had to look at some of the videos and gather evidence around 3B and some of the strong components of students were engaged, and I would push back, how do you know they were engaged? That's your interpretation, because everyone was looking at the teacher or no one was throwing paper. Being very specific with evidence. 17 out of 25 students were writing towards the prompt that the teacher gave. That's specific evidence, and that's not to get the teacher, but it's to say when you want to measure engagement or whatever the component or attribute might be, it's about being very specific. Alec, you said that you also echo what Adam said. I'm glad to hear that your teacher enjoyed the feedback they provided. On that note, did their teacher that they did the observation with, did anyone say, wow, this is the best feedback I've ever gotten? You don't have to say yes or no, but sometimes I hear that in this course, that because you're so dialed in on giving feedback and actionable and specific feedback, it's a shift, especially pre-educator effectiveness. That teachers were given that vague or praise feedback. So I'm glad to hear that, Alec. And I'm glad to see that other staff, that feedback you provided that teacher allowed other staff to have you ask them to come in and work with them. That's great. You're building capacity with teachers and respect and rapport. Wow, you have to write that down as an artifact, Alec, that a teacher said they want to set up more observations. Bravo, that's distinguished. That's a good feeling. I had a teacher last year say to me, "Would you please come in and observe more?" And she was already one of my exemplary teachers, and that means that you're making an impact. That's how I would gauge that you're making an impact, you're providing actionable feedback, the teachers bought in that this is about me growing as a professional, and you've become that instructional coach and that instructional leader with them. So nice job. Anyone else? Russell, welcome. Welcome to the class tonight. Russell, we're just sharing a reflection from this course, from where you started with your thoughts on supervision and evaluation and where you are now today, more than 2/3 of the way through the course. So if you want to just share something in the text box quick, that'd be great. I apologize, I'm coming to you live from my basement where it's darker in the background. So if there's a glare, I apologize. Great, Gloria, that's awesome to hear that your volunteer wants you to come back and see and follow up. And I think that's a key piece. I implemented in our district this year a new coaching model for all teachers with our instructional coaches. And one of the key pieces of professional development I keep hammering home with our instructional coaches as well as our principals is it's not about that one-time shot and doing that observation, and many of you have talked about that in your work, but it's about following through to make sure that it sticks and that it becomes daily practice around your feedback or the support you provided, rather than, okay, I did your observation for the year, you're all set, maybe you want to try doing these different questioning discussion techniques or this activity for engagement, but then you're never measuring it again. It's really easy to say, go do this, and then push them out into the wild and hope it happens, and then next year you're having the same conversation again. Lauren, a good point about teamwork and collaboration and doing things to fidelity rather than here's our mandate and here's what we need to do. We hit home on that as a group in the discussion board where that new principal comes in and lays out her supervision and evaluation plan for the year. But that's great on paper, but what does that mean and what does that look like, and how are you meeting teachers where they're at, having those conversations like you're talking about, Lauren, about professional growth? Thank you for sharing that. Russell, I'm glad to hear you feel more comfortable. I think everyone has jitters of going in and evaluating someone and questioning their practice and providing that feedback. And I've said to many of you in conversation and feedback that you get better with this over time. You learn from mistakes of how even you conduct yourself in an pre-observation conference or post-observation conference. One of the things I'm really glad to hear from everyone is how you realize that during an observation, walking around is probably more powerful for gathering evidence of student interaction, student engagement, teacher interaction, conversation, than finding a spot in the room and sticking to it, because you're not going to get the front row courtside seat all the time to the action that's going on if you just sit in the back of the room. So, no problem, Emily. Emily, we're just sharing a reflection we have quickly of your aha moment or your growth from day one of this course to where we're at now and what's kind of stuck in your head. Well, Emily's typing here. I'm just going to move on to my next talking point. It's really important that all of us, and I've seen it, that you grow and learn. And I was talking to Eric Dimmitt from Cardinal Stritch the other day, and I was talking about you as a cohort, and this is everyone in this cohort. This is my 4th time teaching this class, and this is probably the most growth I've seen from the entire group, number 1 on the roster to number 15. And I attribute that to all of you because you're very reflective. And I want to ask that you really keep that in the back of your head, or actually in the front of your head, as you make your move forward as leaders, which you all are, it's obvious, in your buildings, or if you move into an AP or principal role, or even an instructional coach, effectiveness coach, whatever it might be that's next on your career path, that you stay reflective. That's essential to your growth as a leader. Keeping that growth mindset and questioning and looking at what you do every day, making informed decisions around data, and back to your core values, what's most important for you to grow, as well as, most importantly, what's important for student success. I'm just reading Emily's message real quick, and she says she was surprised to find out how many of these leadership strategies fit into leader of the classroom and teacher mentor. Exactly. Even if you don't go down the path of being an administrator, any of you, hopefully from this whole program, it's helped you grow as teacher leaders. It's helped you grow as a leader of your classroom and your students and your colleagues. So thank you, Emily, for that takeaway. The other thing I would say is some of you have beat yourself up in some of your reflections, and that's a testament to all of you wanting to be better every day. But at the same time, realize you don't have to be an expert at everything. You have to continually learn and grow, but as you get into your first administrative role and leadership role, you're not going to know the answer to everything. But it's about knowing those people in your building and building those relationships that we talked about early on so that you can leverage different leaders within your building and grow them. I know that when I came in as an AP, I knew certain things, but I didn't know a lot. I came to a brand new district. Certain things were in place, and I had to lean on other people to help me. I had to lean on the principal at the time. I had to lean on other APs in the district, other principals, even teacher leaders. Then when I transitioned to the role of principal, it was about, I knew the school because I stayed within the same school, but understanding different curriculum aspects and help and leaning on other administrators in the district. And now at the district level, it's the same thing. Just today, as I'm looking at new literacy implementation curriculum, grades K-6 across our district, I had to reach out and contact my area curriculum directors and say, hey, how'd you guys do this? I'm just curious. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help, but you have to be that constant learner and keep looking and finding those strategies. And it sounds like all of you have a pretty strong network that you're learning and growing from. So I just wanted to give you that 2-minute pep talk there and say, again, I'm very impressed with the work that I'm seeing, and all of you have extremely bright futures ahead of you. So with that, I'm sorry, Scott, welcome to the group today. We just shared briefly, if you could type in the text box, your biggest aha or reflection so far from day one of this course when we first had our virtual class to where we're at today. And don't worry about being late, Scott, no apologies needed. But what's been the biggest aha around supervision and evaluation from this course so far? If you could just share something with us quick. And then once we hear from Scott, really I'm going to open it up to you. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll address them. Any questions about upcoming assignments, due dates, any of that stuff that you need answered or clarification, and then we'll probably conclude for the night. I don't want to take up your time if it's not needed. If people have questions, go ahead, type in the text box or chime in via your microphone. Scott, I hear you. I think I responded to one of your assignments last night about that when you talked about if you could just hit the freeze button, walk into your classroom or office and hit the freeze button around your observations and all the other million things you have to juggle in this role. And I agree. The hardest part about being an instructional leader and doing supervision and evaluation and all the things that come with being a principal or an AP is trying to juggle it and determining what's important and what's timely. We are in Franklin running an administrator academy with teachers who are looking or are already in a program to become principals. And one of the activities we did with them a couple weeks ago is we had some of our principals write down or take a screenshot or print out their calendar and show what it looked like coming into a typical day, and then actually go through and write down what actually happened. And then they had the participants talk about the teachers who were there to be a part of this talk about how they would prioritize, and then the principals or APs shared how they actually prioritize their day. So it's really about understanding what's urgent, what's not. Sometimes things that we think are urgent really aren't, and they can wait. And you don't want to lose trust and lose capacity with teachers if you're constantly putting off their observation. I'm sure all of you have been in that situation where you're all psyched and jazzed, that your principal is coming in to observe you, and then something came up and they didn't, and you probably felt let down. So remembering those instances when you go into a principalship. Yeah, I hear you, Scott. When I was a teacher, I had some of those similar experiences as being the go-to person in the building, and when the principal will be out, you're juggling many hats. So it's a good learning experience for you in future work. Yes, Emily, you can provide books for the low performance discussion board that have helped you. Yeah, any resource, I'm fine with that. It doesn't have to be an online web or article or anything like that. Just cite the source that it is. That works for me. And really, the last last three assignments that are due on, I believe, the 22nd or 23rd, I would get a jump start on those now. Really, the work, they're a culmination of the work you've done so far. So you shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. You should be able to pull from work you've already done and piece it together. Just follow the rubric, and you could probably hammer those out and get those done sooner rather than later. And those are big percentages of your overall grade, but they are culminating papers along the lines of the work that you have to do for this course. So, any other questions? Alec, that's a good question. I would ask your, not site supervisor, but I believe Patty Polchinski, who's in charge of the program. I'm not sure what the requirements of your live text are, but I would assume the supervisory platform is a key component of that. But I would email Patty and ask her if that's one of the pieces that needs to go into that assignment. I would assume, I don't know, this is a new cohort for me when it comes to, there's the research, you're the first cohort with the research strand. Previously it was the 3-year school improvement plan, and this piece, that paper, your supervisory platform, was a huge component of the school improvement plan. So I would assume it stays the same, but verify with Patty. Any other questions, or I'll cut you guys free for the night. Please feel free to email me or call me or whatever you need to do to get a hold of me if you have questions that come up. Again, I need to get grades in to Stritch right after Christmas, so the sooner you can submit your work, the better, but obviously there's the deadline, I believe, of the 22nd. If you need some extension for whatever reason, just let me know. And as I think all of you have asked for different extensions or given me a heads up that something would come in late, if you do that, I'm more than flexible to extend that time and allow you that time and not take points off. Okay, I'm working on my wait time here from Danielson. I think it's 2B. So no one asked any questions. With that, if I don't talk to you guys or email back and forth, happy holidays. It's been great being your professor for this class. And please feel free that even though this class ends in the end of December, if you have further questions as you're going down your administrative career or even future classes, please feel free to reach out to me. It's not just this one and done, but for sure, long term, I want to help fill the field with great professionals that I know all of you can be. All right, guys, have a great night. Talk to you later.